Okay, how to share window. This window. Okay, so I read through the findings and kind of compiled some notes, and then I asked ChatGPT to make my notes pretty. So here's the kind of draft report, and of course, very open to suggestions and amendments. Um, so, just kind of introducing what this is, what we asked, what they responded. Oh, good. Here's Brent.
Hello.
Hello. So we were.
Sorry I'm late.
It's okay. We were just getting started.
Okay.
I just kind of prepared this draft so that we would have something to discuss. So this is about the PRAC survey. Oh, I don't have it called up here, but the results, and I kind of went through and paid a special attention to the last two questions where they offered kind of their own interpretation of what their challenges are and what their recommendations are for fixing those challenges. So, am I still sharing the screen? The box disappeared. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so it seemed like it's kind of the recurring theme was staffing, workload, time constraints, that kind of thing. And then also kind of like these spikes for like high volume email searches. Um, and then, when they can't meet statutory deadlines, it's because of that, because of, their perception of their limited capacity. We also found that public understanding of the records process is a significant barrier. So a lot of times people will use the records process, like those state libraries said, like they would use the records process to make informational requests, or people will use the records process to like ask them to create reports rather than just release reports that have already been created. And just kind of like how to make records requests and what the laws are around that. So in a stunning coup for governmental transparency, so Open Oregon developed in 2019 a like update to the those like bright green, bright yellow Oregon Public Records Law guides. So we did an update, and it was only digital because we didn't have the money to print it. And then we put it on our website. But when I went to go find it, that website is now defunct. So it's kind of reverted back to an old version, and the links are all broken. So I asked Todd, I still had a copy of it, so I asked Todd if he could put it up on the website, and he did, like within seconds. So it's awesome. So I think that, kind of publicizing that resources like that are available, I think would help folks in just kind of a general education of what public records are and what they can do. So digital tools, this is partly kind of the transparency by design stuff. Also, like there were a number of agencies like DOC that said, you have to like physically go to different places in order to collect records sometimes. So kind of centralizing their records and kind of making it easier for folks to gather those records would be helpful. And then the complexity of the public records law. I did reach out to the Sunshine Committee because I know that they were working on kind of figuring out the 550 plus exemptions that there are in the state. I'm not sure where they're at with their work, but hoping to get an update. So yeah, just kind of the complexity of the law is difficult for folks to manage. And then we had a couple of complaints about the survey itself. Clackamas County had a really hard time with the survey, in part because it was it's a very decentralized, I guess, thing. So they like went to every single agency and asked them the questions and then had to compile them, but then still couldn't like answer most of the questions because they wanted a text format rather than numeric. So yeah, you know, I feel like maybe we could be a little clearer that like not all the questions are required, but that's definitely something to talk about. Um, there's kind of these three themes of the solutions that they came up with in their in the narratives, in the like kind of open-ended questions at the end. So again, kind of centralization, more training. There were 11 agencies that I counted that explicitly requested additional training opportunities for staff and also elected leaders. So I don't know, does the advocate offer training to, I mean, it's anybody, right? So,
Anybody and everybody.
yeah. And then one suggested like short on-demand video modules on YouTube or something. And maybe that's a way to kind of spread our resources. And then again, kind of a resource page or something, which I think, we already have, but something to kind of point people to. So I broke up kind of the recommendations into three kind of audiences. So things that the advocate can do, things that the state government can do, and things that individual agencies can do. I'm talking a lot, so if anybody has any questions, just feel free to jump in. This first one is done. So it's, offer the how to make a public records request guide. We've already done that. It's now on the website under public records resources. And then I don't know, like, what do you feel about, the ability to kind of turn your training into some short videos, so that it's not always like, in person or live?
I've been wanting to do that since 2019, and I've never had the opportunity to do it. But I think with the help of the council, we could make it happen. I even thought at one point of using animation.
Yeah.
And now with AI, it might actually be a lot easier because this was well before AI existed that I had this idea. Do these little vignettes, basically take our Public Records 101 full training 90-minute dog and pony show and break it down into its component parts, because we walk through every step of the public records process anyway, and make each of those into individual videos we can put on the website. So yeah, I would love to partner up and make that happen with live action or animated segments for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of the software that the DD agency uses. Cartoons or something, like spelled weird. But it's like you basically put in a script and then it has little cartoon characters that then speak the script, and it, just does it. So that might be an option. I'll see if I can find that.
Yeah, I think they did, DEQ did some stuff with the recycling program when they launched that. They have some little animated characters, but ODF also put together some trainings on the media access law, and it was mostly just like people talking with like PowerPoints, which might also be easier and simpler, just like recording a live training and providing that to people. But I think as long as the AI doesn't look obviously AI, is another caveat, because if it does, you might get made fun of. So I that would be my one opinion, is to just be careful with it.
I think yeah. It can't be the uncanny valley. It has to be either really clearly AI or yeah, very
Yeah, I'd
clearly
be fine with
labeled.
talking stick figures, but yeah, whatever works.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Um, and then, just kind of telling people that resource exists once it does. And then, so this is something that I don't know how to do this on the website, but I feel like it's people who know websites have got to be able to do this easily. But I feel like if we take the spreadsheet and just filter out like the agency, the like, public records officer's name and email address, or title or whatever, and then the URL for their records policy and the URL that they put in for the public interest waiver. That could be a really cool like public resource. It's like, this is just how, this is how you find the right person to submit your request to. So I can create the spreadsheet, but I just don't know how to like what that looks like on a website, as if it's like a searchable thing or it's like a drop down thing, or
Well, it really just depends on what we want to do. So first of all, this already exists for state agencies, so I wouldn't want you to recreate, the work for them. And then of course that leaves us with only a selection of local government. So it wouldn't be a complete resource. And of
Yep.
course, it would be a snapshot in time of like what those URLs were or who those people were at the time we collected it, but with no guarantee it'll stay fresh or relevant, right? But we could certainly put that caveat, and so I don't put anything on the website that can be altered by a viewer. So like if you create an Excel spreadsheet, I'd probably put it up in like a PDF form. We could create something where it directly lives on the website and could be part of a drop-down menu. But again, we're putting like partial, potentially eventually stale data as like embedded in the websites. I think it's better if it's a form that eventually could be altered or deleted as that information is no longer relevant. But it could be really simple, and we could just put it under the resources website part of our website.
does that feel like it would be useful? I mean, if the state already has a statewide one, that's fine.
Yeah, let me pull up the state one so you can take a look at. I'll put the link in the chat so you can see what it looks like.
Ah, yes. Nice. Okay. I'm glad that that exists. Yes. Of course, the DOJ one's the best. They have all the laws on it. Okay, well, I don't know. The spreadsheet already exists on the website, so people can, do that if they want to. So I guess we don't have to do this one if people don't feel like it's that useful in addition to what the state already offers. If it was like every county or something, that would be different, but it wasn't.
I know we're encountering the same problem even with our DA public records orders database because all DAs are supposed to be sending their decisions to DOJ, and only about half of them are doing it anyway. And then of course we're putting them up as quickly as we can in conjunction with the state library. So it's never going to be a complete database. We've renewed our ask several times to the DAs Association to send them those that aren't, and it's just not happening. So I mean, we can create as full a database as possible, but I don't think we're ever going to get all the way there with whatever we do. But like, if you wanted to use what we have as jumping off point, we could use like Scott through OAMR and others through their like association organizations that ask these local public bodies to send us that info if they really want to be part of this database. So it could be like a living thing that we keep trying to update as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, I would love to see this survey sent out every year, or at least every other year, so that we have kind of an updated tracking of like how things are going. So to me, that would be a way to kind of keep it updated. Another thing that I'm just remembering is that I had two folks, one a requester and the other a record officer, involved with medical records at OHSU saying, why weren't we in the study? And I was like, oh, I didn't think about you. So just a reminder to next year offer to include them. Okay, well, I'm going to delete this unless people really feel like this is useful.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So this, I didn't know about this site either on this transparency page. That's great. Is this linked on the PRAC page?
Well, not on the PRAC page, but on the PRA website, there's a resources page, and one of the columns is websites, and so this is included there. See, it's
Okay.
number 2, State Agency Public Records Directory.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm at your page, PRA. Yeah. So that's already there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Excellent.
Oh, and actually, Shasta, go down for a second. If you haven't seen already, you can see how I've added the survey under Public Records Advisory Council survey. Just,
nice.
We have 2019, and then I included your slides. I didn't know if you wanted me to or not, but I thought they were kind of helpful in encapsulating some of the info we got, so I put those there as well.
Awesome. Okay. Yes, so I don't know. We will take that off unless folks want to do it. So there are 11 agencies in the comments that explicitly called out training as something that they need. I don't know if that literally means that they want Todd to come out and talk to them, but I thought at least, reaching out to those 11 people would be cool.
Yeah, do you have a list of who the 11 are? Because I'll follow up with each one of them.
Yeah, I can make a list.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, and so I put this on your plate, even though it's kind of a council thing, just in case I get hit by a bus. But making sure that the next survey is clearer to folks, so that we're not asking them to spend 40 hours of staff time not actually providing the information that we wanted. So yes.
I will say I got some emails from some public bodies saying, hey, are you going to be doing this regularly? Because we might want to change how we track stuff, which was a great opening to a conversation about why they should be tracking stuff in the first place, but also, yeah, which categories they should track. So, of course, I couldn't say definitively when or if they'd be chosen again, but I did say generally this is good information to know on your end anyway, and stay tuned about whether or not the council is going to do more.
Yeah, I do think it's great for folks to kind of take a step back and think about the bigger picture, about the centralization issues and should we actually have a dedicated person to this task, especially in those smaller bodies. So yeah. Okay, so on to recommendations. So
Hey,
yeah.
I have one more question. I'm sorry to keep.
No, that's
pushing
why you're here.
Well, so I remember the discussions about the questions and the methodologies. And by the way, Sasha, this survey is fantastic. Thank you for all your work. When you sent this out, did you send it out to a sample of agencies, or did you send it out to a blanket list of state agencies or was it a selected number of local governments, or how did we make that?
It was all state agencies in the executive branch because we were able to utilize DAS's listserv for that, so that just seemed easiest. And then we did a selection of local governments from counties on down for geographic and population diversity.
Great. And do you remember how many locals?
Oh, was it like 60 something, Shasta? I could look.
That's a pretty good number. Okay. I mean, I remember there was going to be quite a few. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up my list of who we sent it to.
That's okay. I couldn't remember how that worked, but okay. So if we do it again, we would send it to the same ones? Would we, in terms of the locals, would we want to expand it then also to, or would we want to still try to do that sampling? I'm asking because it's clearly some of these agencies want to take part,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah, I think, you know, I think I would probably want, because it was sent out to all the state agencies, so probably just send it out again so
right,
that we have that kind of regular data.
yeah,
I think that there's enough local agencies that maybe we mix it up a little bit or add more people, you know, just because I think it would be good to get, you know, especially the smaller agencies. I don't want to like hit them over and over again with this request when there's other, maybe broader data sets that we could get.
yep.
Yeah, we did 60, by the way, local.
Great, thanks. And thanks. I guess the state agency question was the one that I was thinking about, but that all comes back to me now. Thanks. That's my question.
Okay.
Well, but also think about it. I mean, I don't know how many state agencies there are, 100 and something. And then with 60 local, that's over 160 public bodies. And we only got 64 responses. So we may also want to think about how we can get more responses as well.
Gift cards.
Yeah.
Hey,
Start
not to
with.
public employees, right?
No, I'm just joking. All right. So
No,
yeah.
no.
Okay.
But
No,
maybe we could we utilize DAS as messaging for getting it out. So maybe we could utilize DAS to also say, hey, by the way, have you filled this out? Or, something.
Yeah.
Because we didn't send a follow-up message to
There's also like
state
a
agency.
name and shame list that we could do of like these are the ones that didn't respond, even though it's
We did that in 2019, and
it's
some
weird.
public bodies actually responded and said, "Oh, we're so sorry." And then Multnomah County put out a press release saying, "You never sent it to us," even though we did, and I reached out to them several times about it. But so yeah, a follow-up press release about who responded and who didn't might be helpful.
Okay.
well, with my limited experience in surveying in the academic world, for sure, that's a pretty good response rate for the first time through. Usually you're looking at 10%. Now, obviously, this is a more of a closed survey and people have more engagement, but that's still a pretty good response rate. So yeah, doing those reminders brings those numbers up maybe 20% each time. So I think it would be a great idea to add that. So. And a nudge from DAS or whatever it takes. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Because it is, it's not a
Wait, yeah, Shasta, sorry. So, go back up for a sec.
Mhm.
Where you just added the press release and agencies that didn't respond, put in that we need to send reminders about completing the survey too.
Okay. So, overall, I think that I was pretty encouraged by the results, kind of showing that, people generally have a transparency mindset and that there's kind of a lot of misunderstanding about like what the records law actually can do for folks, and kind of this sense that they're hiding things even when they're not or trying to help. But I also saw kind of over and over again, kind of this like, oh, it's staff time or we have this big workload. And while I do completely understand that I'm sure there's records requesters out there who are like making, just these massive high volume requests for emails that they don't actually, once they get, they're not actually going to do anything with. I think that, starting first from saying, like one person said, um, we need additional funding, or I can't remember how they put it, something like, oh, we can't deal with another unfunded mandate. And it's like, well, any money you get is given to you with this idea of accountability and transparency. So any money that you get is the money to do this work. So just kind of reinforcing kind of this culture of transparency first, and that like any funding you're getting, it comes with these strings attached. And so it's not an extra task. And then kind of publicizing the work, the great work that the advocate is doing and the opportunities that are there. I kind of wonder if the survey itself and the, need to like produce work for the council and the advocate kind of like made it easier for them to understand that this opportunity exists and that there are people working in the state to improve records practices. And then, if the state could create grant opportunities for something like this, one idea I had was like, could there be like a flex option, like a, what do you call it? Like a super expert who like goes into little agencies, like if there's some, some controversy happening at some random water board, could there be a statewide person who comes in to do those records requests when there's a huge spike in public interest, so that it's not like each agency having to figure it out.
That's something that the full council discussed at some point when we were trying to come up with the legislative concept. And it seems like a good idea, but also some pushback we received through public commentary and even among some of the members was that it could take so long to train someone up on the individual, I guess, like culture and records of a particular public body, that having like someone come in from the outside may not work. But also, there was a lot of interest in the centralized pot of money at the state level to allow local governments to sort of petition for it and hire staff as needed. But of course, getting more money for anything is also problematic. But these ideas have definitely been discussed and I think all have merit, but also will probably receive a lot of pushback from some stakeholders too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, but all these ideas deserve discussion. And I was thinking just real quick, a lot of what we're thinking here could dovetail with what the legislative subcommittee is going to do in terms of developing a new concept. So I really like your focus on those last two questions, like about what's working and what's needed, and that could help us form legislative concepts too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be great. I think there's a certain amount of stuff that just can happen through rules processes. Hi, Cameron. But, having, a legislative, fix, especially if we're talking about money to hire somebody, would definitely be cool. But I know that, like, I lived through the lead and water debate at Portland Public Schools and definitely saw like a massive slowdown in the amount of records that they could produce because there was such a high volume of interest all at once. And so kind of a strike team could go in, I think might be
County
useful.
emergency managers have something similar. When one county is like hit with a big flood or a big wildfire, other county emergency managers will go over there and help them. So I imagine they also have to deal with new, local laws and roads and whatever, but they have some sort of system where they work it out and they're able to kind of share each other in that way. And I kind of wonder if we could do that with public records, I don't know, officials as well.
Yeah, I like that. Do you know what that's called? I have like a word to put with it.
I'd have to look back at some interviews I did, but I think it's kind of not like an official thing, just like a mutual aid agreement, similar to like firefighters have a similar thing. But I can go back and look at it and let you know if I see anything that could be helpful. But I also have contacts with emergency managers that are kind of helping organize this whole thing, so I can send you their information as well.
Yeah.
And I know more formally, like the city of Portland's 911 answering point, I think serves as the answering point for several other jurisdictions through like actual contracts or IGAs and stuff. So it could even be something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, what if it's not like, somebody writing in from Salem, but like it's, if Tillamook, whatever soil and water boards has a sudden spike of interest, then Tillamook County can come in and help them. Like it could be a mutual aid agreement between the local agencies instead of it feeling like somebody's coming in to, dig through all of our records and mess everything up. Okay, so there was definitely a lot of calls for better technology, better kind of recording, record keeping software and record request, data tracking software. So I put Steve's concept of transparency by design here at the top. So that is, that when the state is going out for software contracts, that they're making sure that the government databases are designed with public records requests in mind. Because a lot of times in the private sector, that's not a consideration when they're designing, data directories and things like that.
Hey, Shasta, I just put the OAR in the chat for where the state says that for state agencies that any tech they purchase can't interfere with the disclosure of records.
Oh, yay. Yeah, I felt like we did drop part of it into a bill at some point.
Can I ask a quick question about this? I love the fact that you're highlighting the transparency by design, which of course Steve was, a leading thinker on.
Yes.
One of the things that we have run across with reporting, particularly not just with students but other places, is that there'll be a vendor that keeps the documents or the records, and the agency will say, well, the vendor will charge us $300 an hour to access this stuff in the way you want it accessed, for example. And that's been one way out for them. And the other is to say, it simply can't be done. It can't possibly be organized the way you want it organized because our vendor won't allow it, can't do it, therefore you can't have them. City of Eugene has been famous for this. And I'm wondering how far we can go here in suggesting, can we go further in suggesting, or I don't know.
What would the recommendation be? Like that they...
I don't know. I'd have to look because I did click on the OAR that Todd
Yeah, subsection 3 actually addresses that, Brent. It's the last part of subsection 3 for the state. They can't transfer custody in a way that to like a third party that prevents disclosure.
Okay, that's what I did read that. Now, and I'm glad you pointed that out because I was trying to figure out whether that was what we were trying to get to. All right. How about on the fees aspect of it?
That's interesting. Yeah, that they probably could recoup actual costs, whatever require the vendor to turn those records over. And I always try to train on, even if you contract with a vendor that's going to hold the records, in the contract you have to say that the state remains the custodian or the local public body, and that you have to provide those records on demand to the contract holder, the government, for their review for disclosure. Now, it looks like the state mostly does that. Local governments, it's a crapshoot, I think.
Can we include that as a recommendation, even though there's not the OARs don't have authority over all agencies?
Yes. Can you word the recommendation?
Yeah, just as part of the recommendations. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
that's great that the state agencies do that, Todd.
I think to make it work for local governments, it would have to be a law, right? Like amendment to the public records law.
Yeah, if it was enforceable. I'm just thinking at this point, I mean, that would be a great thing to think about. But the other thing, if we're just making
OARs don't... Sorry.
Well, this OAR is
don't
specific
apply
to state
local...
agencies.
Yeah, they don't have a stretch for local governments, right?
Mm-mm.
So what I'm suggesting is we make it a recommendation here.
Yeah.
Because that's about as far as we have authority to go, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So, but I'm struggling to word what the recommendation is.
Oh, I'm having trouble seeing.
Yep. Is that better?
Yeah, I'm getting only part of the screen. Okay, so thank you. Oh, here we go.
So, well, actually, this is under state government, and I have another one for individual agencies down here that we haven't even gotten to yet.
I put the language from the OAR in the chat because maybe we just want to parrot that as a recommendation for local government, or at least start there.
I think that's a great idea. Just pick up that language.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adopt contracting standards Oops. Requires does that seem like good wording? Adopt transparency design contracting standards such as OAR 16601700015, which requires government records to be accessible and responsive to records requests. Is that what we're getting at? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah,
That
sorry.
works.
I think that's a good summary because then the details are in the OAR.
Awesome.
I think that works well.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Todd, what do you think?
Yeah, the lawyer in me always wants to get more particular, but I think it's a good overview. And since we refer to the OAR, it says everything. I mean, we could be more specific and say subsection 3, but that whole OAR really is about openness of records generally. Like, for instance, subsection 1 says that agencies must ensure that all public records in all formats or mediums, including electronic, are maintained in accordance with applicable records retention schedules by the archivist. So it's just good practices all the way through that OAR.
Absolutely. The reporter in me wants more detail too. So there you go. I think it's good.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for entertaining my question.
Okay, and then, these decentralized structures like DOC or Clackamas County, apparently, encouraging consolidation of these records and kind of a centralized or specialized team, and of course, more money. And then, yeah, simplifying the public records statutes. I wonder... I mean, this survey didn't really highlight the fees because that's more of a requester issue, but definitely, I think the fees are also a barrier. So.
Yeah, I would maybe consider fee reform at least as a point here. And then when you're done, I had one other.
Isn't there some sort of guideline like DAS has something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they performed a fee study, have base fees, and they have guidance on fee waivers in the public interest.
Okay.
But it's still based on actual costs and you being able to charge for every step of the public records request. And of course, there's arguments to be made on the reform side that maybe that should not be the case, like akin to Washington State. So.
Like that?
Sure, or whether that's the appropriate standard.
Yeah.
Or it should apply to the whole thing. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, fee reform in general, I think, is the topic. The other thing was, so one part of our legislative concept that then went to that legislative work group that then became SB 417 that I'm really keen on seeing coming back are the communication components. Mm-hmm. Specifically, if you don't post your policy, including your fees, you can't charge fees. If a requester asks for an explanation of a fee estimate, you have to give an explanation to the extent like it would satisfy a reasonable person's questions. And if you're going to reject a request or deny a request for a fee waiver in the public interest, you have to put it in writing. Like there's just those really basic communication components. Mm-hmm. And I think doing that would actually simplify the process because there'd be less confusion on the requester's part. a better understanding on the public body's part up front about like sort of why they're doing what they're doing. So I'm open to that being here as a point to consider under simplify the public record statutes, like implement mandatory basic communication or something like that.
So I think I hear you saying that we would those aspects of the length of the bill, we could make the recommendations here. I
Yes.
like that, as long as you don't feel like some people are gonna think we overstep, you know. But I think I really like that. I think it's a great
I mean,
idea.
it's already a best practice. A lot of public bodies
Yeah.
already do it, but I do think it should be mandatory if requested by a requester that a public body engage in that conversation. It's like, you know, they already have to ask for clarification. They get the benefit of closing the request within 60 days if they don't get the clarification they need. So why can't it work both ways?
Agreed. Okay,
Yeah.
I really
This is probably not just for state agencies, but for individual agencies too. So I'll also move it down there.
Yeah, because I mean, I think those communication requirements should become standard for everyone.
Feels.
Um,
Actually, it's here. Improve public communication. Okay. Did you have something else, April?
Yeah, if we're ready to move on from that, on having like a central system for public records requests and stuff, I've been curious about why some agencies like DAS and DEQ have like a public record system where you can see all the requests you've made, but those aren't shared across state agencies. Like ODF has like a very, you know, old system where you just kind of email and you don't know what your requests are. Like, are these state agencies not being offered the same service? And why is it not centralized where you can see all of your public records requests across state agencies?
My guess is that each agency seems to act like a fiefdom. Like they even have to they charge each other for stuff, right? That's wild to me.
Yeah, we pay the state for all the services we get and need. When I was at DOJ, we would bill state agencies for representing them. Like it's a very what's the word, diffuse, decentralized model. And April, I think a lot of the issues is it's time, money, and resources, right? Like to put that stuff up, you need someone to be paid and told to like now post all our public records requests. And I know some members of the media don't like that because they feel like information they're looking for, they don't want others to know what they're looking for. And I
No,
think
I
it's more
don't
work and
mean
that gets pushed back against. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't mean the public records thing like the governor's office has. I mean, when I make a request to DAS, it immediately pops up on here's your request you made. And then when I get a response, the response is there. So it's almost like its own communication system, which makes it easier for me to know what I've requested and what the response is, as opposed to ODF, where I just email somebody and I don't know if I ever got a response to that, or I may have forgotten that I already submitted it. Why are these sort of, I mean, I could imagine if DAS is paying for that internal communication service, I can see why ODF would not have it because they are an agency that basically gets no funding other than what they get through logging trees.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like a very efficient system.
Yeah,
Then
and
maybe
I
that
don't think
could
it
be a
is.
recommendation we make, is that the state shares its ability to have a more efficient public record system across state agencies.
Right. I remember when the state was examining GovQA and trying to decide if they would adopt it, and if they would they make it mandatory or voluntary? Would it be across the whole enterprise or agency by agency? And clearly they decided it's voluntary and it's agency by agency. They didn't go with a holistic approach. Like, you know, we're exploring a new way of tracking our requests for assistance, not even public records requests, but just our workflow. And someone recommended Granicus to me because apparently that's a really good system. Well, guess what? It costs 18 grand a year. And I don't think I could just justify that cost for the nature of our work. And it's not like this DAS is going to step in and say, oh, no, the state will pay for this. Our little corner of the state has to pay for it. So yeah, there is no sort of statewide solution at this point, for sure.
Yeah, it does seem a little inequitable because then we have some state agencies that are a lot more efficient with public records, and then we have others that aren't. So we kind of lack that oversight with those other agencies.
Yeah, and this goes towards something else. So I guess I'll bring up in the legislative subcommittee, but I want to say here as well, which is any concept we put out, I think we have to be much better at sort of pounding the pavement and talking to the decision makers in the legislature about it. Because, like often I'll just show up and give testimony and I'll say that, but then I'm one of like 20 voices testifying about a bill and no one's really raising that point. So I think if we all get more involved, that message will get spread around more and maybe adopted better or more likely to be adopted when there's more of us doing it.
Legislature is a lot of talking.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
For what it's worth, I want to echo what April said. We've been dealing with two different agencies, BOLI, which has one of those systems that tracks your requests and gets back to you automatically and all that, and Department of Education, where it's a black hole, and which is that agency has become far less transparent than it ever was. So I just want to echo that. I think it's a great idea to try to suggest a unified system. Now I know that means that the state might come up with a really expensive system that gets billed out to these agencies. They don't want to pay it, but I think we should. I'm just seconding the idea of making that a recommendation and pushing that idea forward. So repeating what's already
Something like parity against across all state agencies for like best model or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And kind of similar to the idea of a centralized fund for local governments, why isn't there a centralized pot then for all state agencies? Like I can't right size the way DEQ or another agency could because there's only two of us and our budget is so limited. So like let's say Granicus was the model, can the state supplement our budget to get there?
I was shocked at how many different records keeping systems there were. And
same here.
I was like, like, oh, okay. So yeah.
I mean, it makes sense if it's from different counties and stuff, but like when it's the state, like it's one system. It should be one system. It doesn't make sense why all these agencies are. It sounds like it's a thing that you all are very aware of, but for me, it's very frustrating for them to be acting like little fiefdoms when they're all under the same employer, essentially. Anyway.
And then of course that's just the executive branch. You have judicial and legislative, which are their own worlds unto themselves as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't want to take up too much more of your guys' time, but so for individual agencies, kind of that internal training, I don't even know if they need to invest so much in it. It's just to reach out to the training resources that are already available. And, but just kind of like make sure that there's that culture of transparency. And I would also add, especially at local level, ensure elected leaders. Oh wait, that's up here. Yes. So I guess I don't need to add it separately, but yeah. So just making sure that elected officials receive a training as well. Improving communication. So we talked about this before, but yeah, making sure that each individual agency like follows up with the request and just kind of provides that basic communication so that requesters aren't saying what in the world is happening. So digital tools. So I would say like over and over again, I kept seeing like email. There's just such a high volume of email now. And so, back in 1973 when this law was passed, it's like it was literally just paper. And there's only so many pieces of paper that you would have. But now it's just an enormous amount of email and then attachments that folks have to like search through and redact. So, I don't know if there's like AI tools coming out that could do some of that work. But I think that that's probably the direction we're going in and something that, agencies should probably think about. And then, yeah, like creating kind of a centralized way to manage agency records and requests. Creating templates and tracking data. So I think, again, this survey will kind of help, you know, identify some metrics that they should be watching for. Okay. So what do we do now? How does this work? Do we take this to the full council? Do we post it somewhere? What happens?
What's your goal with this report?
That's a good question. So, yeah, I feel like the reason we did the survey was to kind of, you know, get a snapshot of what's happening in the state of Oregon around records requests, kind of offer that data to the public, and then kind of use that information to inform the work of the council. And so I think that kind of bringing this draft report to the council so that we could talk about it would be good. And then having a full vote of the council on yes, these are our recommendations to the state. And then just kind of move forward from there, see if this can inform the work of the legislative subcommittee or any of the others.
Okay, so yeah, so we definitely would need the full council then to weigh in on this report, and us, because if we're going to adopt it as like the council's report and put it on the website and promote it, we'll need everyone's agreement.
Yep.
So I guess for us, we need to get this into a form we approve, which might be this form right here, and then from there, bring it to the full council.
Okay.
Well, if you want a motion, I could give you one.
Okay.
Can I,
Yeah.
before we make a motion, can I ask,
Go ahead.
I'm a big believer in always letting something, you know, I write cool off for a day or two and go back over it. Should we all take some short period of time, not very long, give it a go over and then make, you know, would it be possible to make recommendations and then
Yeah, I mean, I
make
personally, like, the reason I put this together is because I think way better in writing than in, you know, talking. So I'm fully, you know, if we want to take a breather and maybe reconvene in early January and say, yes, this is the final one that we want to send on to the council, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, everyone could send their edits directly to Shasta, so we don't have any public meetings issues. And then, yeah, we would need to have an official meeting to vote on adopting it as a subcommittee.
I you know, inherently trust Shasta and all this, but at the same time, I just have that feeling of like letting it cool and giving it a week and thinking, or however long.
Yeah.
It's just all great. I don't have any issues with any of the content. It's just, you know, thinking about it as a whole.
Dramatically close to Christmas, so I think
that is true. Oh my gosh, it is, isn't it? So.
It is. So,
hey, we got Hanukkah Sunday too.
Able to meet after
That's right.
week. So I think we had one of the options left over. I think it was January 6th or something from the initial 4 options that I offered. So if I can find that, we could see if that works for the next meeting of the subcommittee. And then maybe Brianna can be here, and that would be good. Used to be in my flagged emails, except it's not now. There we go. Nope. Okay, the option was Tuesday, January 6th at noon. Does that work for folks?
That is the only one that I couldn't do.
Oh,
I have to, okay. I have to be a professor during that moment. So.
Right. What about some other time that day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, for me personally, it's 12 to 2, otherwise it's open. So
12 to 2.
Is 11 too close to 12 for you that day?
should be okay.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a long meeting because we've already gone through it and we can think about it in writing. So 11 on January 6th.
Yes.
Awesome.
I'll send out a new invite.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Shasta, for everything.
Fighting the good
It's
fight.
great. Good to see everyone.
Yeah. Bye. Merry
Take
Christmas.
care.
Happy holidays.
You too.